The ingredient essential for a vigorous life is energy. We already know that digestion uses more energy than any other physical activity. Here is where fruit performs a most vital and significant role. Fruit requires less energy to be digested than any other food. In fact, it demands practically none. Here's why. Everything consumed by the body must eventually be broken down and transformed into glucose, fructose, glycerin, amino acids, and fatty acids. The brain cannot function on anything but glucose. Fruit is glucose in the body. Its digestion, absorption, and assimilation require only a minute fraction of the energy necessary to break down other foods. Other foods spend anywhere from 1.5 to 4 hours in the stomach, and that is only if what is eaten is properly combined. The less concentrated and the better combined the foods, the less time spent in the stomach. The more concentrated and ill-combined, the longer they spend in the stomach. The stomach is where the initial expenditure of energy takes place. Fruit does not digest in the stomach, not even minimally. Fruits are pre-digested. All fruits, with the exception of bananas, dates, and dried fruit, which stay in the stomach a bit longer, are in the stomach only a very short time. They pass through the stomach in 20 to 30 minutes as if they were going through a tunnel. They break down and release their supercharged, life-giving nutrients in the intestines. The energy fruit conserves by not having to be broken down in the stomach is considerable. This energy is automatically redirected to cleanse the body of toxic waste, therefore reducing weight. All this is true only when fruit is correctly consumed, however. What constitutes correct consumption? It is actually quite simple. Since fruit is not intended to be in the stomach extensively, correct consumption means that fruit should never be eaten with or immediately following anything. It is essential that when you eat fruit, it is eaten on an empty stomach. This is unquestionably the most important aspect of Fit for Life. If you eat fruit correctly because it has so much water and demands so little energy to digest, it will play a major role in enabling your body to detoxify your system, supplying you with a great deal of energy for weight loss and other life activities. Fruit is the most important food you can eat. But if fruit is eaten on top of other foods, many problems result. Say you eat a sandwich and then you eat a piece of fruit, for example a piece of melon. The piece of melon is ready to go straight through the stomach into the intestines, but it is prevented from doing so. In the interim, the whole meal rots and ferments and turns to acid. The very instant the fruit comes into contact with food in the stomach and digestive juices, the entire mass of food begins to spoil. Whatever protein is in the stomach putrefies. Whatever carbohydrate is there ferments. The whole thing turns to acid and we run for medication because of the discomfort. This is something that is easily verifiable. Perhaps you've already experienced it. Perhaps after a meal you've had a piece of fruit or a glass of juice and you notice a sharp pain in your stomach, or indigestion or heartburn. The reason for the discomfort was that you ate fruit that would have gone straight through the stomach into the intestines, but was prevented by the other food from doing so. Medical evidence for this process is not to be found because the effects of diet on the body have not yet been sufficiently studied by the medical profession, and its practitioners are the first to admit this. However, Dr. Herbert M. Shelton, the authority on food combining, stresses that the potential value of fruit can be realised only if it is consumed on an empty stomach. If you ever have consumed fruit improperly, consistently, and not felt sick, that doesn't mean you have not violated a dietary law. It only shows the tremendous adaptability of our bodies. You can avoid paying income taxes and appear to get away with it. That doesn't mean you haven't broken the law. Ultimately, the IRS will catch up with you. Prolonged abuse of the correct consumption of fruit principle will ultimately take its toll. Many people eat melon incorrectly and then blame the discomfort on the melon. They say, I can't eat melon. Every time I eat melon, I burp it up all night. Well, what happened? They ate a piece of melon after a sandwich or some other food, and instead of passing swiftly into the intestines, it was stopped by the other food. It then fermented in the stomach, and the victim burped it up all night. The melon was blamed, whereas if the melon was eaten first and about 20 minutes were allowed to elapse, The melon would have left the stomach intact, and the other food eaten would then enter the stomach and no problems would result. This is a very simple tool you are being given, and most people have never even heard of it. Physiologically, fruit passes through the system rapidly and does not use the huge amounts of energy demanded by other foods. This is why I say without any hesitation whatsoever that fruit is the most important food that you can possibly eat. This goes for all fruit, even the acid fruits such as oranges, pineapples and grapefruits. These are only classified botanically as acid fruits. Once inside the body, all fruit becomes alkaline if it is consumed correctly. In point of fact, fruit as well as vegetables have the unique ability to neutralise the acids that build in our systems. Improper food combinations and insufficient quantity of high water content food, the byproducts of many concentrated foods, food additives, polluted air and water, stress, all these and more cause the system to detoxify and acidify. A toxic acid system can be recognised by bloating, excess weight, cellulite, greying hair, balding, nervous outbursts, dark circles under the eyes and premature lines in the face. Ulcers are a direct result of corrosive acid in the system. Fruit, if eaten properly, has the marvellous rejuvenating capability to counteract the acids in the system. When you have totally mastered the principle of correct fruit consumption, you have tuned in to one of nature's secrets of beauty, longevity, health, energy, happiness, and normal weight. Fruit, more than any other food, most perfectly supplies the body with what it needs to experience the highest level of health possible. Aside from its high water content for cleansing, the fact that it leaves no toxic residue in the system, and that it demands hardly any energy for digestion, makes it the most perfectly balanced food for supplying the prerequisites of life for your body. The 5 essentials of life that must come from the food you eat are glucose for fuel from carbohydrates, amino acids, minerals, fatty acids, and vitamins. The number one most important priority of any food is its fuel value. Without fuel, the body cannot exist. Fuel value should always be the foremost factor in determining the worth of any food. The ideal percentage of each of the 5 essentials in food as required by the human body is as follows. Glucose, 90%. Amino acids, 4 to 5%. Minerals, 3 to 4%. Fatty acids, 1.5%. Vitamins, under 1%. The above represents what the ideal composition of food in terms of the body's needs would be. There is only one food on the planet that fills the bill perfectly. It's fruit. This would support Dr. Alan Walker's findings that human beings were strict frugivores for millions of years. Before we, as a race, were led astray by external influences like all other animals in nature, we instinctively ate what most efficiently supplied us with the prerequisites of life. In our case, this was fruit.